The house is silent. Not the peaceful kind of silent, but the heavy, suffocating kind that presses down on you in the middle of the night. It's 2 a.m. I'm staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster like I've done every night for the past 3 weeks. Beside me, Sarah breathes softly, lost in a sleep I haven't been able to find. For weeks, this cold knot of dread has been twisting in my stomach, a feeling that something is fundamentally wrong. I've tried to ignore it, telling myself I'm just tired, stressed from work, but tonight, it's a physical weight on my chest. Then I see it, a faint, pulsing blue glow from under her pillow. My breath catches in my throat. We have a rule: no phones in the bedroom. We made it years ago to protect our space. Her regular phone is charging on her nightstand, dark and silent. This is another one. My mind screams at me. Don't do it, Alex. Just close your eyes. You're being crazy. But the dread is stronger than reason. My hand moves, seemingly of its own accord. It's shaking so badly I'm afraid the tremor will wake her. I slide my fingers under the cool silk of the pillowcase and touch the smooth glass of the screen. I pull it out slowly. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs. I press the side button. The screen illuminates her face, casting her in an ethereal, ghostly light. And there, on the lock screen, is a new message. My eyes fix on the name first. Mark, work. Then I read the words beneath it. Thinking of that night in the hotel room. Can't stop. The air leaves my lungs in a silent rush. The world doesn't just tilt. It shatters into a million silent pieces. My mind snaps back 2 months ago to the fight we had after her business trip. I can hear her voice, so full of righteous indignation, echoing in the silent room. Alex, I promise you, nothing happened. He was just lonely. His wife and him are having problems. We just watched a movie in his room because the hotel bar was closed. That's it. I remember my own voice, small and uncertain. It just feels weird, Sarah. Alone in his room at night? Oh my God, stop! She'd cried, her eyes filling with tears. You're being insecure. After all these years, you really think I'd do that? You have to trust me. I did. I apologized. I felt ashamed. Every word was a lie. I look at the message again. Can't stop. The casual intimacy of it is a physical blow. This isn't a one-time mistake. This is a shared secret, a memory they both cherish. I don't feel rage. Not yet. All I feel is a hollow, ringing emptiness, as if someone has scooped out my insides. With a hand that feels disconnected from my body, I slide the phone back under her pillow, tucking it into the exact same spot. She sighs softly in her sleep and rolls over, away from me. I lie back down, my eyes wide open in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. The house is still silent, but now I know why. It's the silence of a tomb. I'm lying next to a woman I don't know. I'm a stranger in my own bed. Before the silence, this house used to be filled with laughter. Her laughter, mostly. It was a bright, musical sound that could make even the grayest days feel warm. Now, lying here in the pre-dawn light, I can't even remember what it sounds like. I think back to one of our first dates. We were sitting in a cheap diner and she was telling me some wild story about her college roommate. And then, she'd said, leaning forward, her eyes sparkling, she dyed the cat blue. Can you believe it? I just smiled. Sounds inefficient. The cat would just lick it off. She threw her head back and laughed. Oh, Alex, you're so serious. You're like a rock. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. My rock. I remember asking, is that a good thing? It's the best thing, she'd whispered, and I believed her. For years, I built my identity around that. I was the steady one, the reliable one. My love wasn't in poems or fancy dinners. It was in the foundation of our life. It was in the fresh pot of coffee I made for her every morning, with exactly 1 sugar and a splash of cream. It was in the squeaky floorboard I fixed on a Saturday, just because I'd heard her complain about it once. It was in my paycheck, deposited into our joint account like clockwork. I provided. I protected. I was present. But was I there? I remember the day we bought this house. We stood in the empty living room, the sunlight streaming through the dusty windows. Our voices echoed. "The foundation is solid," I said, stomping my foot on the hardwood. "Good bones. We can build a life here." Sarah wrapped her arms around my waist from behind and rested her chin on my shoulder. "A life. Yeah. It's perfect. Our perfect, quiet life." She sounded happy. I thought she was happy. I mistook her silence for the same contentment I felt. We fell into a rhythm. Work, dinner, TV. We'd sit on the couch, her feet in my lap, and I'd hold her hand, but we wouldn't really talk. We'd talk about bills, about groceries, about whose turn it was to take out the trash. The big conversations, the ones about hopes and fears and the little disappointments that pile up, they just stopped happening. I didn't notice. To me, the quiet was comfortable. It was proof of our stability. I never realized that for her, it might have been the sound of drowning. A rock doesn't ask you how you're feeling. It doesn't notice when the light in your eyes starts to dim. It just sits there, solid and unmoving, while the tide slowly erodes the shore around it. I was so proud of being her rock, I never saw that I was also the reason she felt stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm not making excuses for her. What she did, the lies she told, that's on her. But as I lie here, replaying every missed cue, every unanswered emotional bid, I have to face a painful truth. I didn't push her into another man's arms, but God. I held the door wide open, for him, and I was so busy fixing the squeak in the floor that I never even heard him walk in. The first time I heard his name, it was innocent. Sarah had just been moved to a new department, and she came home buzzing with an energy I hadn't seen in a long time. "It's so much better than my old team," she said, unpacking her bag. "The people are actually fun. There's this guy, Mark, who sits next to me. He's hilarious. Honestly, Alex, you'd like him." "That's great, honey," I said, genuinely happy for her. "It's good you have people you can get along with." But getting along was an understatement. Soon, Mark wasn't just a name. He was a character in our daily life. His opinions started to filter into our conversations. Mark was saying that new Marvel movie is overrated, she'd mention while we scrolled through Netflix. "Oh, I thought you wanted to see it." I did, but he made some good points. It was small things like that, insignificant, really. Then it became, "Mark and I have this inside joke, you wouldn't get it," followed by a secretive smile. Or I'd come home to find her on the phone, her voice light and animated, and she'd hang up the second I walked in. "Who was that?" I'd ask. "Oh, just work stuff," she'd say, a little too quickly. The real shift happened with her phone. It became an extension of her hand. We'd be sitting on the couch, watching a show, and she'd be angled slightly away from me, her screen tilted so I couldn't see it. A small, almost unconscious act of concealment. She'd laugh softly at something on the screen. "What's so funny?" I asked once. "Nothing. Just a stupid meme from the work group chat," she replied, not looking up. The house started filling up with these little pockets of secrecy. Then came the family dinner that I can't forget. We were at my parents' house for our weekly Sunday gathering. My sister Chloe was there. Everything felt normal, comfortable. We were passing around the mashed potatoes when Sarah's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and a smile bloomed on her face. A genuine, unguarded smile that I realized I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. She picked it up and started typing under the table. I tried to ignore the knot tightening in my stomach. From across the table, I caught Chloe's eye. She wasn't staring, just a quick knowing glance at Sarah, then at me. Her expression wasn't accusatory. It was something softer. Concerned. It was a silent question. "You see this too, right?" I gave a tiny shake of my head, trying to signal that it was nothing. But she knew. Later, while I was helping Chloe clear the plates, she cornered me in the kitchen. "Hey," she started, her voice low. "Is everything okay? With you and Sarah?" My defenses went up instantly. "Yeah, we're fine. Why?" "I don't know," she said, avoiding my eyes as she rinsed a plate. "She just seems somewhere else, like she's not fully here with us. She's just got a lot on her mind with the new role at work," I said, reciting the excuse. I'd been telling myself for a month. Chloe stopped and looked at me directly. Is that what she's texting about all through dinner? Work? A flash of hot irritation went through me. It could be. It's a demanding job, Chloe. She has friends, you know. She's allowed to have a life. Of course she is, Chloe said gently, not rising to my tone. I worry about you, Alex. The way she looks at that phone, it's not a work look. You're reading too much into it, I snapped, taking the plates from her a little too forcefully. We're fine, seriously. I walked out of the kitchen, my heart pounding. I was angry with her for saying it out loud, for giving a voice to the ugly fear I was trying so hard to bury. It was so much easier to believe she was wrong. It was so much easier to pretend I was just being paranoid. The next morning, I moved through the kitchen like a zombie. I hadn't slept a minute. The coffee maker gurgled, filling the silence I couldn't bear. When Sarah walked in, she was humming, pulling her robe tighter around her. Morning, sleepyhead, she said, kissing my cheek. It felt like a brand. You look terrible. I poured 2 cups of coffee, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. I placed one in front of her. Sarah, we need to talk. Her humming stopped. Okay, what's up? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice even. It's about your work trip, the one a couple of months ago. The change was instantaneous. Her posture straightened, her easy smile vanishing, her face hardened into a mask. This again? Alex, I told you, we've been over this. Nothing happened. I think something did, I said quietly. I saw a message last night, on your other phone. Her eyes flashed, not with guilt, but with outrage. You went through my phone? My private phone? It was on the lock screen, Sarah. A message from Mark, about that night in the hotel room. Wow, she breathed, shaking her head in disbelief. Just, wow. I can't believe you did that. That's a complete violation of my privacy. Is it? Is it more of a violation than lying to my face? My voice started to shake, the controls slipping. I didn't lie, she shot back, her voice rising. I told you we watched a movie. We talked. He's a friend, and he was having a hard time. Is that a crime? He said he couldn't stop thinking about it. People don't say that about watching a movie. So, now you're policing how my friends are allowed to talk to. Me? She asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. What's next? Are you going to put a tracker on my car, read all my emails? And then it came, the line that would echo in my head for months. Why are you trying to control me? She asked, her eyes welling up with tears. It feels like I can't breathe, like I can't have one thing for myself without you getting jealous and suspicious. He is just a friend, that's it. Don't you trust me at all? The conversation completely derailed. It was no longer about her and Mark in a hotel room. It was about my trust issues, my insecurity, my need to control her. Every defense I offered was twisted and thrown back at me as another example of my paranoia. You're suffocating me, Alex, she sobbed, burying her face in her hands. I feel like I'm in a cage. Her tears were my kryptonite. They always were. The sight of her crying, the raw pain in her voice, it made me question everything. Was I being controlling? Was I the monster she was describing? The memory of my own emotional distance, my quiet nature, flooded my mind. Maybe this was my fault. Maybe I had pushed her to this. My anger dissolved, replaced by a wave of guilt and confusion. I moved around the counter and put my arms around her shaking shoulders. Okay, I whispered, my voice hoarse. Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have looked at your phone, I'm sorry. She leaned into me, her sobs subsiding into small hiccups. It just hurts so much, she mumbled into my chest, that you'd think that of me. I held her, comforting her, my own profound pain completely erased from the conversation. It was gone, invalidated, replaced by her hurt. As I stood there, stroking her hair and murmuring apologies, a cold, terrifying thought surfaced. This wasn't a fight about a friendship anymore. This was a fight for my own sanity. It was Sarah's idea to go to therapy. I think she expected me to refuse, to give her another piece of evidence for her case against me. I agreed immediately. I was desperate. We sat on a plush gray sofa in a room that smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Our therapist, a calm woman named Dr. Anya Sharma, smiled gently at us. "So," she began, her voice soft, "tell me what brings you both here." Sarah took a deep breath, like an actress preparing for a monologue. "I feel incredibly lonely," she started, her voice already thick with emotion. "Alex is a good man, he's stable, he provides, but he's emotionally absent. For years, I've felt like I'm living with a ghost, and recently I made a friend at work. Mark. He's the first person in a long time who makes me feel seen. He listens to me." She glanced at me, her eyes full of accusation. "And Alex can't handle that. His jealousy is suffocating. He sees it as a threat instead of what it is, a lifeline." I just sat there, my hands clasped so tightly my knuckles were white. The narrative was set. I was the cold, neglectful husband. He was the vibrant, understanding friend. My valid concerns about hotel rooms and secret phones were now just symptoms of my suffocating jealousy. The game was rigged before it even began. Dr. Sharma turned to me. "Alex, how does that land with you?" I can see my part in it," I mumbled. "I know I'm not the most emotionally open person." The session ended with homework for me. Work on expressing your needs and being more emotionally available. So I tried. God, I tried. The next week, I came home from work with a plan. "Hey," I said, finding her scrolling on her phone in the living room. I was thinking, remember that little Italian place on Grove Street? The one with the candles? I made a reservation for us for Friday night. She didn't look up from her phone. "Oh, Friday? I can't. I think Jen and I are supposed to do something." "Jen?" "Yeah, from accounting," she said, her thumb still moving. "Girls' night." The following Friday, I saw a picture on social media. It was from one of her other work friends, a group of them at a bar. Jen was there. So was Mark. Sarah was standing next to him, laughing. I didn't say anything. I just kept trying. I bought her peonies, her favorite flowers. I left them on the kitchen island with a little note. "Thinking of you." When I got home that evening, they were in a vase. "Thanks for the flowers," she said as she walked past me, her eyes on her phone. She didn't even slow down. The silence in the house grew heavier each day, a physical presence that sucked the air out of every room. It was only ever broken by one sound, the persistent buzz of her phone, a notification, a text, a reminder that her real life was happening somewhere else, with someone else. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I found her in the kitchen, staring out the window. "Sarah, can we please talk?" I pleaded. "No phones, just us." She sighed, a sound of immense weariness, and turned around, leaning against the counter. "What, Alex?" I poured out everything. "I know I failed you," I said, my voice cracking. "I know I was a rock when you needed a partner. I was quiet when you needed conversation. I see it now. I see all of it. But I'm here. I'm trying. Please, just meet me halfway. Tell me what you need from me." She listened with a patient, detached sort of pity, the way you might listen to a child's rambling story. "That's a good start, Alex," she said when I was done. Her tone was flat, clinical. "It's good that you're finally recognizing these things." There was no warmth, no flicker of connection. It felt like a performance review, the final nail in. The coffin came in our fourth therapy session. Dr. Sharma was asking Sarah to describe her friendship with Mark. "He just gets me," Sarah said, and her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. "He makes me feel like I'm interesting, like my thoughts actually matter. He remembers little things I tell him. With him, I feel alive." I sat there and listened. To my wife describe another man using all the words I had ever wanted her to use for me. I looked at her, so animated and full of passion, and then I looked at my own hands, lifeless in my lap. In that moment, I knew I wasn't trying to save my marriage anymore. I was performing CPR on a corpse. I was a ghost in my own house, haunting the memory of a life that was already over. And she was just watching me, waiting for my arms to get tired so she could finally, without guilt, walk away. It was our 10th anniversary, a decade, a number that felt heavy, significant. Against my better judgment, a tiny, fragile flicker of hope had ignited within me. Maybe this could be a turning point, a milestone to remind us of what we'd built. I made a reservation at La Valette, the small candlelit bistro where I'd proposed. I even bought her the sapphire earrings she'd pointed out in a magazine months ago. When I gave her the box, she actually smiled. A real one. Alex. They're beautiful, you remembered. Of course I did, I said, my heart giving a hopeful little flutter. She got dressed up, wearing the navy blue dress I loved. For a half hour, while she did her makeup and I put on a tie, it felt normal. It felt like us, before. I saw the woman I had married, not the stranger who lived in my house. We sat down at our corner table, the same one from 10 years ago. The candlelight danced in her eyes. "You look beautiful, Sarah," I said, and I meant it. "Thank you. This was a really nice idea, Alex. It feels good to be here." I started to relax. Maybe Chloe was wrong. Maybe Dr. Sharma was helping. Maybe we could find our way back. I opened my mouth to say something, to tell her about a memory I had of that first night here. But then it happened. Her phone, which she'd placed face down on the white tablecloth, gave a distinct buzz. Her eyes flicked down to it. A tiny, almost imperceptible shift in her focus. She was no longer with me. "Everything okay?" I asked, keeping my voice light. She picked it up, her thumb already swiping across the screen. "Yeah, sorry, it's just work. 1 second. Work. The word hung in the air between us, a lie so thin it was transparent. Her thumb started to move, a frantic, silent dance on the glass. A small, private smile touched the corners of her mouth. The same smile I'd seen her give the phone 100 times over the past few months. I didn't say a word. I just watched. I watched my wife disappear right in front of my eyes. The restaurant, the candlelight, me, it all faded into the background for her. She was in a bubble for two, and I was on the outside. I took a sip of water, the glass cold, against my lips. I could have been a stranger at the next table for all the attention she paid me. The waiter arrived with 2 plates. "For the happy couple," he said, placing a slice of chocolate lava cake in front of each of us. On the rim of her plate, written in delicate raspberry sauce, were the words, "Happy Anniversary." I had pre-ordered it. A little surprise. "Oh, that's beautiful!" Sarah exclaimed, her attention finally snapping back to the table. She fumbled for her phone. "Let me get a picture of this." She held the phone up, angling it to get the perfect shot of the dessert, of the romantic message written just for her. She tapped the screen a few times, her brow furrowed in concentration. And I knew, with a certainty that was as cold and absolute as the bottom of the ocean, I knew she wasn't taking that picture for her memories. She was sending it to him. She was sharing our anniversary, our moment with her friend. Something inside me didn't shatter. It didn't break or crack. It just stopped. The frantic effort, the hope, the fight, it all just ceased. A profound, icy calm washed over me. The war was over. I had lost. I picked up my fork, the metal, frigid against my skin, and looked across the table at the smiling, beautiful stranger I had married. I was completely, utterly done. The weeks after our anniversary dinner were quiet. The fighting stopped. So did the trying. We had become polite, distant roommates, navigating the spaces in our house like 2 ghosts who had forgotten how to haunt. I'd given up. I no longer asked where she was going or who she was texting. I just observed my life from a great distance, watching the slow, inevitable collapse. The suffocation had ended, replaced by a cold, barren vacuum. I was in my study, one Tuesday evening, paying bills online, when the email notification popped up in the corner of my screen. I usually ignore them, but this one caught my eye. The sender was an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was just one word. Mark, my heart didn't just pound. It stopped dead in my chest for a full second before restarting in a frantic, painful rhythm. My mouse hovered over the subject line. Every instinct screamed at me to delete it, to not invite another wave of chaos into the fragile peace of my resignation. But I couldn't. I clicked. The email was short, 4 sentences that would detonate my entire world. Mr. Henderson, you don't know me. My name is Emily, and I'm Mark's wife. I have reason to believe we are in the same situation. I recently found a chain of emails between him and your wife, Sarah, on our shared computer. I've attached them. You deserve to know the truth. Sincerely, Emily. Below her name was a single attachment, a PDF file named Correspondence. My hand was shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I downloaded the file. It took 3 seconds that felt like a lifetime. I clicked it open. It wasn't just a few messages. It was a novel, 100 pages of emails stretching back almost a year. And as I started to read, the cold vacuum inside me was replaced by a roaring fire of pure, undiluted horror. It was all there. Every lie, every secret meeting, every stolen moment. But it was so much worse than a simple affair. It was a plan. Sarah, to Mark. Alex is a good man, but he's like a piece of furniture. He's just there. I feel nothing when he touches me. I feel everything when you just look at me. Mark to Sarah. Emily is the same. Predictable. Safe. She doesn't see me, not the way you do. Being with her feels like living in black and white. You are color. I scrolled faster, my stomach twisting into a sickening knot. They critiqued us, dissected our flaws with cold, clinical precision. My emotional distance, Emily's anxiety, it was all fodder for their epic love story, justification for their betrayal. And then I found the emails about the hotel. Sarah to Mark. That night in the hotel room was the most alive I've ever felt. Just talking for hours, planning our real life. I've never felt so seen, so understood. Mark to Sarah. Lying next to you, even with a foot of space between us, was more intimate than 10 years of sleeping next to my wife. I wanted to kiss you so badly. A movie. They just watched a movie. The lie was so brazen, so complete. The worst part was the timeline they had created. Sarah to Mark. Once my year-end bonus comes through in January, I'll have enough to put a deposit on my own place. We can tell them on the same day. A clean break. It will be hard, but we have to be brave. Brave. They called it bravery. I leaned back in my chair, the words blurring on the screen. The initial shock, the searing pain of betrayal, began to recede, and something else took its place. A strange glacial clarity. Every therapy session, every tearful accusation. You're trying to control me. You're suffocating me. You don't trust me. It wasn't a defense. It was a strategy, a calculated performance designed to keep me off balance, to make me the villain in a story where she was already writing her heroic escape. I was not crazy. I was not controlling. I was being managed. The entire power dynamic of our marriage, which she had so expertly wielded for the past year, shattered in an instant. She didn't hold all the cards anymore. I did. I held the undeniable, unvarnished, brutal truth. I closed the laptop, the click echoing in the silent room. The fire was gone, replaced by ice, and for the first time in a very long time, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I waited until she came home from work the next day. I didn't stage the living room or prepare a speech. I just sat on the couch, the same couch where we'd spent thousands of silent evenings, and waited. The ice in my veins had frozen my emotions, solid. There was no anger, no sadness, just a calm, unwavering resolve. She walked in, kicking off her shoes by the door. Hey, she said, her voice tired. Long day. I'm starving. What do you want for dinner? She was already moving toward the kitchen, her back to me. I'm not hungry, I said. My voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. It stopped her. In her tracks. She turned around slowly, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Is something wrong? she asked, her brow furrowing with that practiced look of concern. I didn't get up. I just looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. I saw the actress, the performer, and I knew the show was about to end. I spoke to Emily, I said. Just that, 3 words. Her face, which had been arranged into a mask of casual indifference, went completely white. It was like watching a statue crack. Who? She breathed, but her eyes gave her away. They were wide with a dawning animal panic. Emily, I repeated, my voice still level. Mark's wife. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, taking a half step back. The old script was kicking in, the denial, the confusion. Is this another one of your paranoid fantasies, Alex? Did you track down my coworker's wife? This is exactly what I mean when I say you're... I have the emails, Sarah. I cut her off. The words landed in the silent room like stones. I watched her performance completely crumble. It was fascinating, in a horrifying way. The defiant wife, the misunderstood victim, the woman trapped in a suffocating marriage, all those characters she had played so brilliantly just melted away. Underneath it all was just a raw, cornered fear. She had no script for this. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Her carefully constructed world was collapsing, and she was free-falling. How? She finally whispered, her voice a raw croak. She found them on their computer. All of them. The ones about the hotel room, the ones where you call me a piece of furniture, the ones where you plan your brave new life together after you get your bonus. Every word was a nail in her coffin. Her legs gave out, and she sank onto the armchair opposite me, her hands covering her face. A gut-wrenching sob tore from her throat. It wasn't the manipulative, strategic crying I had grown used to. This was the real thing. The sound of utter, absolute ruin. Alex, I'm so sorry, she choked out between sobs. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was just so lonely, and he listened. I was going to tell you. I was going to end it. Please, you have to believe me. But I felt nothing. The part of me that her tears could once manipulate was gone. It had turned to ice and shattered. I just sat there, a silent observer to her unraveling. As she wept, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a text from my best friend David, who I had called that morning. David. Called it. Emily is a shark. She filed for divorce this afternoon. Sent the whole email chain to Mark's parents and his boss in HR. His life is a crater. I read the message, my expression unchanged. I looked up at my sobbing wife. She was utterly alone. Her affair partner, the man she was going to build a brave, new life with, was currently having his own world burned to the ground. Her carefully crafted narrative was in ashes. Her lies were exposed. There was no one left in the room to blame. No controlling husband, no suffocating marriage. Just her and the wreckage she had made. Please, she begged, looking at me, her face a mess of tears and makeup. Don't leave me. We can fix this. I finally stood up. There is no we, Sarah, I said, and the finality in my voice was absolute. There is nothing left to fix. It's been 6 months. The big, silent house is gone, sold to a young couple who will hopefully fill it with the laughter it was missing. My world is smaller now, a 1-bedroom apartment over a quiet street. The silence is different here. It's not heavy or suffocating. It's light. It's mine. My sister Chloe is sitting on my new couch, a mug of tea cradled in her hands. She helped me pick out the couch. She didn't say, "I told you so," once. Not a single time. You seem better, Alex, she says, her voice soft. Your eyes aren't as haunted. I manage a small smile. I feel better. It's amazing what happens when you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. We both glance at it. It's a message from Sarah. It's the 3rd one this week. Chloe raises an eyebrow. You gonna read it? Eventually, I sigh. It'll be the same as the others. What does she say? Chloe asks gently. I pick up the phone and read the last one out loud, my voice flat and detached. I lie awake at night thinking about what I threw away. It wasn't just a marriage, it was a life. A real, solid life. The connection, I thought, I had with him was a fantasy, Alex, a cheap, empty fantasy, and I burned down our home for it. I hope one day you can understand how sorry I am. I put the phone down. Chloe just watches me, waiting. And, she prompts, how does that make you feel? I think about it for a moment, searching for the anger or the pain that used to be a constant companion. But there's nothing there. Honestly, I say, looking her in the eye. It feels like I'm reading a review for a movie I saw a long time ago. I recognize the plot. I remember the characters, but the emotions aren't mine anymore. They belong to a different person. Chloe nods slowly, a sad smile on her face. That's called healing, little brother. I get up and walk to the window, looking down at the people passing by on the street below. Each one is living their own story. For the first time, I feel like I'm finally living mine again, not just reacting to hers. The closure, when it came, wasn't a dramatic moment of forgiveness. It wasn't the quiet satisfaction of revenge. It was acceptance. I accept my part in our failure. I was a rock when she needed a partner. I accept her betrayal. She made choices that were hers alone. And I accept that some things, once they are truly broken, can't be fixed. They can only be left behind. Chloe leaves a little while later, and the apartment settles back into its peaceful quiet. I stand in the middle of the living room, surrounded by my own things, my own choices. I am completely and utterly alone, and I am not lonely. In the end, the quiet she hated so much became the only thing that saved me, and the loudest sound in my new life is the steady, peaceful echo of my own footsteps moving forward.